Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. It is so good to be here with you today. It is Thursday, October the 25th, 2018, and it is Live Day today, one of my favorite days of the month. I'm so delighted to see you here. Mariana, Natalie, Anik. Anik? Am I still saying your name right? I'm never completely sure if I am. If I'm not, please correct me. I want to say your name properly. Hello, Susan. And then someone from 613 or 617 is here. I don't.
That's Bernadette Reed, Lisa.
Ah, Bernadette. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. It's so good to hear your voice. Sylvia is here. B is here. The letter B is here. Rebecca. Hello, Rebecca. So good to see you. My goodness, my goodness. My
name is Anik. You pronounced it perfectly.
Thank you, Anik. I'm never certain, and I never want to say it incorrectly and dishonor you in any way. So thank you. Thank you very much. Put my mind at ease. Teresa, hello. Welcome, welcome, y'all. A lot to share with you today, and two additional things. One, I have a surprise for you. So if someone could remind me, if I forget, please go, hey, what about the surprise? Because I don't know that I wrote it down. I'm doing things a little differently today because Bobby is not here with us. Bobby is traveling and investing some time in her own process. We miss her. Bobby, wherever you are, much love to you, and holding your work today in my heart, which means that I didn't go about preparing the way I normally do. It's really fastidious because I send her a copy of the highlights so it makes it easier for her to keep notes for us and add them to the chat. So slightly different process today, and there's no one to pop those things into the chat for us. So I want to offer you a potential today. As it happens, Bobby is away, and you could fill her shoes temporarily if you like. And here's what I'm going to suggest. Two of you decide amongst yourself if you even want to try. Kind of volunteer to type in, and one takes one piece and then the next one follows. So there's not two or three of you typing the same thing at the same time. There's a little duplication. That's a suggestion, but use the chat. And if anyone's interested in filling in Bobby's shoes, they're tough to fill, I know, but I know we could if we wanted to. Decide for yourselves, amongst yourselves, how to do this so there isn't too much overlap. And so the resource of notes is still here. So just a thought, okay? Decide amongst yourselves. I am going to dive in because there really is a lot to share with you. Again, as usual, I'm going to take my glasses off because it's easier to read my notes that way. And please forgive me if I don't make consistent eye contact because reading, looking at you my eyes do two different things there. So it's easier for me to make sure I'm catching my notes properly. I'm going to mute everybody so we keep a nice clean recording for you. And so the experience of the space is clean too, but I'll pop us off mute at the end. I also want you to know that for those who have become members of the Facebook group, those people and I are going to convene after we're finished live today. If you can't, that's okay. There will not be a recording, however. What I'm going to do is kind of say goodbye to the regular grouping at the end of today's live and then turn off recording because I want there to be the recording to share of the live overview. And any questions people ask, the deeper dives that offers us together. But then I'm going to turn the recording off. So if you are a Facebook Live group member, please know that you're invited to hang out. Emily, thank you, Emily, posed a question that is worth considering together. And we're gonna, whoever wants to join me, we're gonna dive into that question, okay? All righty, so that's it in a nutshell. Let's dive into all the things that are on the table to review today, okay? Let me just make my notes bigger. Yeah, my eyes like that better. Okay, muting everybody. All right, I do have the chat open. Can you all hear me okay? I haven't affected your ability to hear me, have I? Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right. So, as you know from the reminder that today was live, we've got 2 retrogrades going out of effect in November and 1 coming in. One on the same day, 1 goes out officially out of retrograde, although the shadow is going to linger for a while, and we'll get into that too. Scorpio, most of November. So if you want to take, go back into what that vibe is, check out the last live because we looked at that. We're not going to dive into it again today because there's just too much to talk about. What we are going to talk about is Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is going to play a pretty substantial role in a couple of key ways. And so the combined energy of Sagittarius as a sign and a set of characteristics, or a container through which a couple of significant players are going to be expressing themselves. That in combination with Scorpio is really the thing to pay attention to. So we are going to take a quick look at Sagittarius because it's kind of important. There is something big happening for us purposepreneurs. It's going to last a little over a year, and it starts in November. And it's kind of a big deal. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the retrograde that's coming into effect and the retrograde that's officially ending, but still going to be hanging around. And kind of, knocking at the door. So I want you to know, starting November the 2nd, our 3rd and final Mercury retrograde of the year begins its pre-retrograde shadow. Okay, and that will last until the 16th. Okay, and it's important, this just because of the other things that have been play, the intensity of those things on the whole. I just want to say that it appears as though this Mercury retrograde is going to be a bit of a wowza. And so paying attention to the typical, the usual safeguards during Mercury retrograde, or safeguards to act on in advance of Mercury retrograde, like dot your I's, cross your T's. And here's the surprise, I remembered. I am going to republished a revised and updated version of the Mercury retrograde guide. In it, I'm going to cover this coming retrograde and the retrogrades in 2019 and their unique characters, so that retrograde to retrograde, you know how to dot your I's, cross your T's, what Mercury and Mercury retrograde oversee characteristically, and then the sign that those retrogrades will be expressing through, so you know retrograde to retrograde what that means and what added aspects of experience and influence and context you should be keeping in mind, because that could kind of be important. Okay, hope that makes sense. Now, the other thing I want you to keep in mind, and just for the record, it's likely we're going to publish that revised guide at the end of this month or very early, by November the 2nd, let's put it that way. When the shadow begins, it will be published or just previous to the shadow beginning, okay? This will be in the guide, but I want you to know in advance so you can kind of watch for it or prepare yourself to watch for it. You will begin during that shadow period to get an idea of the kinds of thinking, the kinds of communication, or the kinds of transport, whether it's physical transport or virtual transport, issues that are likely going to be attended to or focused on for you, okay? So during the shadow, and working on this revised guide actually, you know, was, Mercury and I have become more intimate with each other. We've just become friendlier. I've gotten to know Mercury better and Mercury me. So I realized that during the shadow period, not only can we and reportedly see a kind of ramping up of Mercury retrograde, but it's a foreshadowing of what the retrograde is likely going to focus on for you. And you can pay attention to that during the 2 weeks pre-period, so that when the retrograde takes effect, you can be leaning in already. And Mercury really likes when you do that. Okay? So good to note. Alrighty. November 6th, 7th, and 8th, with an emphasis on 7th and 8th. 7th in North America or Northern Hemisphere, and 8th in the Southern Hemisphere. Hello, y'all. New moon, our emotional intelligence, emotional wisdom in Scorpio. It's the beginning of a new moon cycle. And this particular moon cycle is pretty interesting. Now, we just had a full moon. Bet y'all felt that last night. I know I did. This is interestingly, this cycle is actually a continuation of what started yesterday. Okay. It's really interesting. I noted in the reminders that I sent out that what this cycle wants to help us do is to address critical emotional intelligence issues. Places where emotional wisdom, emotional intelligence is, where we may not be accessing it, or we may be accessing it, but there's, you know, flicker. Because accessing it and moving through it will help us arrive at more emotional freedom. And with that freedom, the ability to stand and access wisdom more reliably. That's really what this is about. Now, it's not necessarily going to feel that way. This particular new moon wants to offer us a doorway into emotional intelligence and whatever transformative experience that could provide through forgiveness. And forgiveness through empathy. Okay? And the thing that's really interesting about this is, because we normally think, oh my God, I have to forgive so-and-so. That's just so hard for me. And I want you to switch positions. This is the time to review where we may need to say, I'm sorry. To recognize our own missteps, our own transgressions. And say the I'm sorries. What this suggests is that the emotional wisdom and insight, actionable insight, needed to follow where you're going to be called or where you're being called. This is necessary. This will free you up of guilt or shame or self-doubt or concerns about your own ability to harness and stand in power. Okay? It's really about enabling your forward movement freely into responding to calling, holistically responding to calling. Okay? It will likely make us feel more sensitive. and that's a loaded word for a lot of us, I know. Let's use another one, deeply compassionate. Deeply compassionate, deep feeling with and for others. It will, however, challenge us to apply that same deep feeling and compassion for ourselves. And so the application of empathy, the application of compassion has to come here first. And what this also seems to want us to know is that the power of forgiveness of others is only made possible when we give it to ourselves first. Not exclusively to ourselves, but so that we may then forgive. Okay? And that forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not, it's okay you did that. It's, I forgive you for doing that. But I'm not going to forget that you're capable. And I'm not going to permit it again. Those things are not folded into permission to continue behaving as, it's not a denial that something, went down. Yeah, kind of shouldn't. Okay. This also the sensitivity or deep empathy also wants us to help connect us more emotionally to the imperative of our calling and the deep dream in it, so that we're likely going to feel more willing to follow the moon's come over here. Okay? It really wants us to move forward and manifest our calling. Really. All right? It's a big deal. Now, there's a couple of key things that I also want you to know. Number one, if the things that we need to kind of acknowledge and say I'm sorry for, will tend to be more about, stepping over things with a group of people. It could be a family, not just a single person. There tends to be a, grouping effect, which can make it even more intimidating. Just so you know. Being in the company of others who are willing to walk through this at the same time you are, so that there can be support, so that you're not meeting this and all the emotions it brings up alone, okay, could be critical, because there's power in a normative experience that is not reductive, but additive, okay? And I don't say that lightly. For those of you who prefer and have a tendency to go things like this alone, not talk about it till it's over, just, it's unlikely you'll be successful, okay? And I'm not saying, plop yourself down and all over a group like this, for example. What I am suggesting is that you connect with a couple of people who are really in your corner without agenda, at the same time you're in their corner without agenda. People you can trust, people who are genuinely going to hold space safely, because that additive effect is really what's going to matter. It's not a public thing, it's, right? So the impact on the group is, and on you, is additive, group and group. It's a really interesting dynamic, and I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. The other thing to be very mindful of is this is not a favorable time for business deals, business negotiations, or business agreements, unless they are genuinely and exclusively driven by love and power with commitment. If there's even a hint that anything else, something else is in the mix, I want to strongly suggest you hold off until the 9th or 10th. Okay? And for the record, I'm not going to. It's not that I don't trust myself. It's just that I know there's places in me that aren't altogether conscious. You know, not bad, just, you know, there. Alrighty? Okay. Next one. Jupiter. Otherwise known here in Soul Map vernacular as who is this? Our fortune finder. And our fortune finder moves into Sagittarius on the 8th, where he will stay until December the 2nd, 2019. 2019. And will be partnering with Uranus, our benevolent rebel, which is, holy cow. Like, this is the one I really wanted to tell you about. We're going to come back to this later because this is the big fat whole purposepreneur alert that we really want to dive into. But I'm going to keep going and we're going to come back to this one because I want to give it a little more space and time. November the 16th, Venus, our charisma of cause, officially leaves retrograde. Okay? Officially leaves retrograde and leaves retrograde. So she has gone backwards. That's what retrograde is. The appearance, metaphoric movement backwards. Let's review. Let's rethink. Let's reimagine. Has gone backwards out of Scorpio and into Libra by that point, by November the 16th. Now she's still in Scorpio right now. So we're still venturing into the underworld. We're still, and check the bonus live that we did a week ago last Monday. So not this past Monday, the Monday before, okay? For some of those really interesting details. We will be in shadow, post retrograde shadow, until December 17th. So the effects of the return from shadow, the learnings, the insights, and their dawning effects are still going to be kind of unfolding for us until the 17th. And the intensity is likely, there will be a noticeable shift on the 16th of November, but the intensity is likely going to linger all the way till December the 17th. Okay? There's a couple of things about this that are also probably important to note. So I'm going to say to the relationship therapists, counselors, coaches, facilitators, and even those who facilitate or support end of relationship, mediators, counselors. So it's while we're in a relationship, we want to see if we can make this better or repair it or whatever the case might be. Or there's end of relationship and we want to do that as well and loving as we can. I want those folks, if that's your calling and that's your work, this point in time, phase 3 of the retrograde cycle, the post-retrograde shadow, from the 16th of November to the 17th of December, this usually signals a significant change in intimate interaction, okay? So for those with partners, an unexpected event may bring upset and tension, like kind of bring things to a head. Okay, so if you support couples or groups wanting to improve, mend, or peacefully, lovingly end relationships, I just want you to keep that in mind. You can pretty much anticipate. It won't be everybody, but there'll be enough of it. For those looking for a partner, so if you facilitate those who are attempting to establish a relationship, a meaningful relationship, there is potential. This tends to bring opportunity for a new and exciting connection. What I want you to know is that they tend to be short-lived. There's great learning in it, but if the aim is long-term commitment, just keep that in mind. Having said that, if the two who connect are both highly freedom-loving and unconventional and unorthodox in their way of living relationship or way of living commitment, that might be a very, very different story. Very different story, okay? So just keep that in mind. They will not do marriage or relationship the way, and they may even be surprised that when they find someone with whom there is that kind of connection, that the way they build it themselves, it's not to conform, it's not to, you know, societal standard, it is really their own definition and expression of marriage or relationship, okay? Second thing I want y'all to know, and this goes into a different area, financial windfalls are very possible during this particular point in time. But you need to take extra care with your money because of the other players in the background. The impulse to take larger than usual financial risks or gambles because of optimism could be high. All right, so windfalls are possible, out of the blue are possible, and it could go as quickly as it came in, and that may not be what you want. It doesn't mean the risk or the gamble or the investment optimism is pointing you at approach it with a little more tempered overview, okay? Okay. During that particular period, I'm going to say to those who are in the money businesses, in the money, so investing, funding, new kinds of banking, social service banking, really interesting things are possible during this time. And I wanted to make sure I told you that, okay? Favored fields, anybody? Yeah, okay. Favors or invitations. This is one for everybody, and I want to make sure that I say this really clearly. Favors or invitations that bring you or your work attention and popularity are likelier than usual. Okay, having said that, it is very likely that on the part of the inviter or the favor giver, there will be conflict of interest of some kind. Okay, they may be inviting you, saying all the right words, but personal gain is likely behind the invite or the favor. There'll be strings of some kind. It's a great opportunity to walk in and navigate that, and, you know, really keep your eyes open. Check your values and stand in your values. Some of you, I've experienced this one, not once, probably 2 or 3 times. And the first time I fell on my face because I didn't have this context. I just hadn't checked. It's an opportunity to walk into an invitation, which is like, oh, yay, and go, you know, no, thank you very much. It's an opportunity to still say yes, but say no to the strings. It's a really big opportunity for maturation and relational mastery that allows you to remain strong and rooted and connected in your codes, in your values, in sightedness, okay? Really interesting, okay? So that's a big one. And again, that's November the 16th to December the 17th. So a little over a month. Pretty good. November the 16th. So the same day. Mercury officially goes into retrograde in Sagittarius. Hello. So we know, because we've gone around this one before, that when Mercury goes into retrograde, we tend to experience communication, technology, and travel or transport shenanigans. Okay? Delays, broken links, lost items that, you know, you're trying to get from one place to another, et cetera, et cetera. So I really want to invite you to use the pre-retrograde period, the foreshadow period. Let me just review those dates for you again, November the 2nd till the 16th, to do all the things that are normally recommended in preparation for a retrograde. Back up your data, and not just on your computer, but on your mobile devices, your iPads, your smartphones, et cetera, and back up your websites. And I say sites because a lot of us have more than one. And then make sure your backups are working, okay? That you know how to get to them, or that your support team knows how to get to them. And, or verify that whoever you are contracting to do the backups for you has done so and has checked them. Okay, so that's number one. Technology, so things like this, things like your laptop or your desktop or your iPads, your devices, make sure they're in good working order, because I tend to hear report after report after report that these things break down during Mercury retrograde, but they tend to be a little hinky beforehand, kind of giving us the wink, wink. So if you already know something needs maintenance, update, care, use that 2-week period to get it taken care of in advance. All right? Now let's dive into the Sagittarian bit of this. And I'm going to do a deeper dive into Sagittarius and its nature a little bit later when we look at Jupiter, our fortune finder, and its shift into Sagittarius. But for now, here's what's important to know. Number one of the big pieces of Sagittarian is it's the bearer of truth. It recognizes when there's an elephant in the room, and one of the things it wants most deeply is for the truth to be said out loud. Huzzah! It delights in the truth. And whenever communication during a retrograde under the oversight of Sagittarius happens, if there will be hinks in communication when there's an elephant involved, a subtle one we can't even see, or the overt ones. Okay? So there will be breakdowns in communication related to truth. And the thing I also want to say is the assumption that everyone's on the same page. And that's what's true. So again, with this 2-week in advance period, I really want to strongly suggest that you over communicate, that you double check to see, especially if you work with a team of any kind, or a virtual assistant, a team of assistants, like, period. Double check that assumption or premature conclusion is not at work in things, with various people walking away assuming or concluding that we're all same page when we may not be. Double check that assumption and conclusion, premature conclusion, isn't in the writing that you're posting or you're sending out or on a web page. Okay? And this is particularly important if you've got a launch, which technically don't recommend active during a retrograde period, just saying. Although Apple, for some reason, the Apple company tends to launch products every time there's a retrograde. Not every time, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but routinely. It's the oddest thing. But if you're doing a significant launch and it really matters, unless you begin the launch in advance of the retrograde, the official start of the retrograde, I actually would suggest you hang on. One condition: get your own stars reviewed first. Go to someone like me and just have a small motion map done to tell whether or not you have auspicious favor. If you do, just disregard what I said in this particular instance. Otherwise, I would hold off, okay? If you're preparing a launch and you're working during a retrograde, all these double check for truth and like authenticity, genuine presence, emotional, like I'm being real. Not like, you ever get those emails where, you know, people told me not to be quite so vulnerable here. If you got to tell me you're being vulnerable, I have a feeling maybe not. That the degree of authenticity, realness, emotional availability in what you're writing, plus checking to make sure premature conclusions and assumptions aren't in play between you and those who are supporting you, and between you and you, or you and your audience, could be a big deal, a really big deal. While Sagittarius is in play, our bullshit barometers are going to be way more attuned. And it could be really attuned to picking up even the most subtle signals. So one of the things I'm actually going to suggest is, if you're writing, preparing to send out something that is important, whether you're going to do a launch or not, run it past someone who gets you in your work and is willing to challenge you. Not like rah, but lovingly go, okay? Run it past someone or a couple of someones who look at things from different perspectives. Could be important. All right? Yeah. So that's the other thing. Just because of the players, I also want you to know it may be a time when you're thinking, any place where your thinking is distorted, particularly assumptive, prematurely conclusive thinking. The distortion will become amplified, and it will complicate communications. It will just complicate them. Yeah. Pay attention. Listen to what you hear yourself saying. I would also, this is a really good time to maybe run, if you're about to have an important conversation with an intimate, a friend, a family member, a client, a group, and the distortion factor is a concern to you because in your gut, you kind of have a feeling there's some of that going on. Here's what I would suggest. Go and have role play with someone who has deep listening skills and loves you and is in support of you. Might be really useful. Okay? Okay. Now, the last thing I'm going to say to all those who work in and support those who are living with drug and alcohol addictions. You're likely to see an increase in crisis during this period. Sorry. You're just likely to do that. And I want you to know in advance so that you can get rested and be available to be as present and supportive as possible for those folks, okay? Not the best news, but you know. And if you are someone who has that working in the background, this is a really good time to lean into support. Okay, just want you to know. November the 23rd, full moon. So our emotional wisdom in Gemini. Now, we continue the theme of attempting to free ourselves or free substantial chunks of emotional intelligence and emotional wisdom with this one as well. Okay? Now, this one could, like, it's a little out of character. Most people think about emotional intelligence Gemini as like quick thinking and connection between emotions and mind, and that's not how this one's likely going to play out. When I look at this one, because there's other players contributing influence and character, what this one wants us to see is where we get triggered or tripped into heated emotional reactivity, anger, frustration, that spins the emotional intelligence into a mental story that has us standing in when feeling frustrated, when feeling angry, so that communication breaks down, because communication broke down between here and here. Did I say that in a way that made sense, everybody? You guys are doing an awesome job with putting the notes in the chat, people. Love it. Oh, gosh. Okay. Again, it wants us to retrieve ourselves from feeling ashamed after the fact, feeling embarrassed and humiliated and incapable of saying sorry, which keeps us from the power, which keeps us from the freedom, which, okay? So what this one will likely afford us the opportunity to do is fly off the handle somewhere, because we want to release ourselves, retrieve ourselves, so that there is more authentic partnership, connection between what our emotional intelligence and emotional wisdom affords us and what our mind makes of it. Okay? The flip side of this isn't always, it can be in response to that. And I posted something from Patty Dye in our Facebook group, in the Insiders Facebook group, that kind of talks about this. Someone said something to her, and as she said it, put her on her heels for a bit, because she was being taken to task, chastised. The opposite of this is falling into silence. Just, pardon me, I will behave, thank you. Whether we intend to behave or not. Okay, it's this, or it's, I apologize. I lost my mind for a moment. It won't happen again. Okay? It's retrieving ourselves from either end of that spectrum, the extremes at the end. This one will be particularly active for we women. Just saying. Okay? It's not that it won't be affecting the men folk, or those who identify as male, or those who identify as gender neutral, because this isn't about gender. Really, in the end, it's not. It's about the expression and the impact and influence and hooks gender roles have in our conditioned self. Okay? Big deal. Now, again, think about this in terms of we want to reclaim this wisdom. We want to retain, reclaim ourselves, this piece of ourselves, so that we can then move our work forward. All right? For those of you I spoke to earlier about helping those with drug and alcohol addictions, this full moon period, the 24th, the 22nd, 23rd in North America, or in the Northern Hemisphere, and then the 23rd, 24th in the Southern Hemisphere, those days are going to be particularly challenging, just so you know. All right. Last one before we get back to Jupiter, our fortune finder. November 24th, Neptune goes direct. Neptune has been in retrograde for quite some time. But at this point, Neptune begins to go forward again, leaves a retrograde. The post-retrograde shadow for Neptune, our dream keeper. The post-retrograde shadow will last until March 15th, 2019. So it's going to be around a while. All right. What was this one about? Us. And you heard me talk about this when reviewing favored fields. And so this remains a favored field. The review, rethinking what natural talent is, what natural giftedness is, what inherent potential is, and how to live it. Okay, more of us were more interested in understanding that or having insights into it that were kind of like, wow, that's different than what I'd thought. Wait a minute, huh? Say what? We don't do it that way? Yes. Okay, so the dream about how to go about accessing, inhabiting, fully expressing natural talent, natural giftedness, creative potentiality through purpose, changing ideas, very much changing ideas, which shifts the understanding of the dream. This was the impetus for quests for personal development or spiritual development. So this will remain a favored field for a good long time, right on into the 15th of March, 2019, although it's going to begin to wane. Now, here's the overlap with, in November, with Sagittarius, because the quest, the drive is to seek and land in truth for us. And given that Sagittarius, that's one of the big pieces of oversight, that means that throughout November, this one, and even into December, this one's going to be heightened for a while. So if you take people, you facilitate, coach, counsel, questing, guess what? Good time. We're going to go through some noteworthy dates for the month that kind of correspond with that, but I want to go back to our fortune finder who's hanging out in Jupiter very soon. Big, gorgeous, yum, yum, yum shift that's working in partnership with our benevolent rebel, or Uranus. So, the reason why this is so yummy is because Sagittarius is overseen by our fortune finder, by Jupiter. And so the other thing about this is just so gorgeous, is the expansion of truth. And the expansion of good fortune through truth. And the desire to leap into the journey of seeking, embodying, and living that truth. It is the desire for deep inquiry and fascination with cultural diversity, with diversity of thought and diversity of approach and diversity of truth, which is, okay, it's not so my truth is my truth and that means your truth is shit. Pardon my language, but that's not it. It is this paradox of a passion for variety and diversity. Okay? Because inside there's this, what Sagittarius holds and carries is this recognition that it is through diverse entry, through respectful engagement, and through diverse entry, we have the chance, the ongoing active chance of becoming attuned with one another. Okay? Now, I want you to know that one of the shadow expressions of this is heightened intolerance. And I know we've had lots of that. And some of you may be going, oh. It is the time to stand not against intolerance, but to embody, and not, kind of puffed up, over expressed kind of, I am for diversity. It's not that either. It is the authentic, genuine living in deep respect for, appreciation of, and embrace of truth and diversity. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? The quest. Sagittarius loves the quest. The other thing that's really interesting about Sagittarius is the quest, the process of seeking and experiencing. Sagittarius knows that that does not preclude active, ongoing creation and building right now either. It holds this really paradoxical notion that you don't have to know it all to act in its name right now. It's where this do what you can with what you have, where you are. Okay? And keep seeking. And remain open. This is what allows folks like you and I to stand in somewhat of a position of authority on something without being expert. I know it all. Because we know we don't. That doesn't mean that what we have to offer doesn't have value and truth right now. And that there isn't, a bounty of more. It allows us to kind of inhabit that place in the balance of things while expanding at the same time. Ta-da! You add to that our fortune finder is shifting into this, where he is at home and sovereign. Guess what that means for folks like that? And partnering with our benevolent rebel. For folks like us who are on kind of pushing the edges of things. Guess what that means? It means that it can and likely will bring great changes to belief systems, to how we go about building, talking about, and inhabiting wealth creation. It means that it will bring shifts to education and our ideas about them and how we go about educating, which many of us do. It will mean that there will be a bit of a flux, but inside that flux will be optimism and a mind-blowing opportunity to have a very different relationship with uncertainty. And those of you who were with me on the incubator call yesterday, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. A growth spurt, a serious one, is more than possible while our benevolent rebel is sitting in this sign and partnering with our benevolent rebel who brings us into the expansive spirit of, there's something kind of funky about this. No, I am not going to comply. Compliance? No. There's such a better option. One that will benefit all of us. Help us all expand. Let's go. So a growth spurt is very, very possible on the physical level, on the material level, and the spiritual level. We will need patience. That one's going to be hard for most of us. We'll need moderation. That too may be hard for some of us, myself included. And it will need some research. We will have to review the opportunities. Temper our, because you put you put these guys together, they're all, and you're going to want to review. Again, having others kind of listen and help you take a moderate approach, a modified approach. I'm not saying sit on your spontaneity, but there's a difference between spontaneity and ungoverned impulse. And we don't want to leave anything ungoverned, because that's not really sovereignty. Okay? Holy moly, holy moly. I want to suggest you let yourself think bigger. And it isn't a thinking, it is a connection to that which sees bigger through us and for us. Okay? So Sagittarius is represented by the archer, the one who twing and sends something into flight farther than sometimes we can even see. That combined with our fortune finder and its expand and its generosity, and stepping out of mental I know and into the knowing of that which we are a part of but is far more far-seeing than we. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. Okay? Now, Jupiter is going to retrograde while we're in Sagittarius. And that's going to be important because it will slow us down, but because it wants not to discourage us and not to frustrate us, but to give us the opportunity where, in which we can see where we're proceeding with this rather than this running the show. All right? And where we are using the idea of technology, the approaching transformation as if it is a technology that can take us from here to there in the bat of an eye so that we don't have to do hard work. Okay? If you were born with our fortune finder, with Jupiter in the sign of Sagittarius, hello. This could be a humdinger of a year for you. Oh my goodness. I just, holy cow. If your Jupiter is in one of the other fire signs, Aries or Leo, not quite to the same degree, but not that far off, could be really, really good year for you. It depends on the relationships and the interplay of those relationships, what story this will tell. It also depends on what house it also happened to be in. So I want you to know that when it comes time, we're going to do the usual motion map special for year end, beginning of the next year. I want you to know that one of the bonus number one, and we're not quite ready to open the doors to this yet. It's coming soon and I'll let you know when, but I want you to know right now, bonus number one is a deeper dive into where your Jupiter is sitting. Okay. So we can take a look at the effect of this for you for the next year. All right. But oh my goodness, our optimism is likely to be higher. Our sense of generosity is likely to be greater. Our ability to see further, particularly if we're not coming from here, but really tuning in, it's going to be, amplified. It'll be easier for us to take appropriate risks. It will be necessary for us to kind of temper a bit and have support to do that with. But we'll be more willing to kind of foray out in pioneering ways with less of the fear factor. It could be a big deal. And for purposepreneurs, when this is done from purpose, in attunement with purpose, oh my goodness, this could be a really big year. Okay? Now I'm quickly going to review the dates, noteworthy dates, because they might be useful for you to know. November 5th. Okay, increases desire for an enjoyment of social contact. while increasing the odds of finding or deepening really great connections that are win-win. All right? Creativity is likely going to be very stimulated. It's a great time to start creative projects or anything you're really deeply, purposefully passionate about, especially things combining beauty with action. And if you're in the party or event planning or oversight field, big boost for you. Good day to make an offer or launch a campaign. Okay? November the 11th. This one's going to see, and this happens a couple of times during the month, so I'm going to repeat this a little bit. Each one's got a slight twist. November 11th, increased desire to succeed. Increased desire to succeed, along with a very heightened, purposeful sense of determination. It's great for getting started on a long-tailed project or task you may have been anxious about beginning. It also boosts our attraction factor when purposeful. Also can increase our power to influence, which I strongly suggest you use with care and deep respect. Just because you have added access to the power to influence does not necessarily mean all of us use that well. Just so. November 15th. Similar, but with this twist. The creative commitment to making tasks or work fun or enjoyable will be very high. So drive to succeed, but let's have fun while we're doing it, okay? Which will make getting the ball rolling even easier. Not a bad thing. And you notice that this is before the retrograde really begins. Mercury retrograde begins on the 16th. Also a day during which you or a client may spontaneously realize, it could just be boing, it's time to exit or reduce your investment of time and energy in a relationship that's limiting. Now that relationship, when I say that, it could be a relationship to a person, a group, a place, an idea, a way of life, or an approach. Your relationship to it. So whenever I use the word relationship, we tend to think, oh, my significant other, my best friend, but it's, okay, so just keep that in mind. We also simultaneously may feel ready to take the emotional risk of leaving or limiting contact, but doing so in a way that is truthful. So ghosting is not part of this. Okay, interesting, no? November the 19th. This one is likely going to boost energy, enthusiasm, and courage. Really? Okay. Here's the twist. It must be expressed through bold for you. Okay, so check the meaning of bold, because your bold will not necessarily be my bold. Bold for you, creative action and or physical movement, or the energy will build up and result in rash action. Okay? Just, again, govern. November the 21st. I'm very handsy today. Have you noticed? November the 21st. This one's a tricky day, sort of, but it also has opportunity. It will amplify restlessness and creative tension. At the same time, it inhibits intuitive clarity. Now you might be asking, how is that opportunity? Well, here's how. It's going to make a lot of us feel uncomfortable, and we may actively attempt to get out of the feelings rather than be with them so we can see the point in the tension. That if we stay with it rather than try and get out of it, or be reactive against it, kind of go, blah, blah, blah. If we be with it so we can see the point, the intelligence inside the tension, it will begin to dissipate. But it won't dissipate. It will build unless we let ourselves be with it. This wants to help us learn more deeply how to be with creative tension, how to be with restlessness. All right? It's an opening to desired change, but the opening only becomes an opening if you stay with the tension. If you do, it will become wildly clarifying and deeply instructive for you. Okay? And it won't come from here. November the 26th, the desire to expand horizons will be amplified. It is a great time to get the word out about or go on a quest-like travel experience. So you can go on a quest that involves travel, like from home to someplace else, or travel could be built into the experience, one or the other. Those two are the likeliest to receive the biggest boost. I'm thinking of one person in this community who really, their thing is in here. You know, I'm talking to you right now. One cautionary note. Expanding our mind's view of colonial mindset is very alive in this one. And if you don't know what that means, go do some Googling and investigating about colonial bias. Okay? The other thing that's in here is the rush to decision make through assumptions and premature conclusions, which is kind of built into colonial mindset. I know everything I need to know. My view is the only one that matters. Just saying. Be aware that what you think you'll be experiencing and what you actually do experience are likely to be different. If you are a facilitator of quests that have involved travel from here to the site of the quest, or you facilitate quests that include travel as part of the questing, just be aware that your people are going to be experiencing something other than what they expected. And some of them, if they're really hitting the wall inside the experience, it's very possible they could go, this is what I paid for. And I want to say that to you so that you can quietly, in an anchored way, meet that and arrive at an understanding that doesn't come from here, but comes from here, about how to respond. Maybe a couple of responses relative to the individual you may be attempting to continue facilitating experience for, okay? That difference in the end will be very much of benefit for that individual and for everybody, okay? All right, yeah. November 27th, similar to the 11th and the 15th with this addition, it adds an energy regulation and committed kind of patience to the drive and determination to succeed, which makes it a stellar time to plan out and initiate a course of action in the most efficient way. Now, again, if that plan only comes from here, if efficiency is the only benchmark, okay. Yeah. It particularly favors physical outer action and offers tremendous promise of solid progress. But again, if it only comes from here, before jumping on this one, and I'm going to pop a link into the chat for everybody, because I watched this yesterday with my jaw on my chest. Before you jump on this one, I want to suggest you go watch this. It's a Red Table Talk, which is hosted by Jada Pinkett Smith, her mother, and her daughter, Willow. Will joins the conversation in this one. And within the conversation, Will talks about a period in time in which he was convinced he was doing something for Jada, when the truth was he was doing it for himself. And he really could not see how this was getting in the way. And he talks about the experience of having the realization and what it felt like. And it ties in here. So I want to suggest you go give it a, if this really sounds like something you want to lean into, I really strongly suggest you go watch that. Last one, November the 29th, another auspicious date for promotion, booking, or beginning of quests, particularly those that involve travel, okay? For those of us for whom going on a quest or facilitating or hosting a quest is not our thing, I want you to know these. IDs are likely going to rain down this day. So be sure to have note-taking utensils on hand, written or audio. I do audio, so you know. I haven't transcribed using voice recognition software. I still get to the note part, but I don't write things because. Okay, so big deal. It's not us, so you act on them right away, but just, I want you to know you're likely, it's very likely, I'm expecting that I'm going to feel kind of inundated that day. Get some rest a couple of days, the few days in advance, just be ready for it. If it does become your experience, write them down. Don't try and act on them right away, and then sift through them and look for the ones that bring you most alive. And anything that's not that kind of, wow. Okay, just put them in a file. You're not burning them. You're just focused. All right. Last thing, business deal completion is also highly favored on the 29th, provided, now remember this is within retrograde. Okay, just saying. Provided the fine print is read clear and truly, truly, truly win-win. It's not one-sided. It's even slightly one-sided. Okay. Now we talked about favored fields in a slightly different way today. Many of the favored fields that we reviewed last month and the month before are still in play. You might want to go review those from your notes from the last live. And the highlights of favored fields that I've talked about are in the notes. Thank you to y'all for putting them in here. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing. We've reviewed, so you might just want to go check the notes out again. All right, they will be shared during the replay follow through, our follow-up tomorrow. So we'll send out the replay link and we'll send out these notes. I'm going to copy and paste them before we close. Okay. All right, any questions? Anybody? We've gone over time, but you know, there weren't that many big moves this month, but I wanted to make sure I communicated the characteristics that will provide context of experience, so you really knew as much as I could offer you about how to meet these for yourself, with your clients, within your business. So I hope that was helpful. Anybody got any questions? Anything that you want to? Yes, thank Kim and Brianna for the notes. You guys are awesome. Anybody have any questions, any ahas, anything they want to share? I'm here. Hi, Laura. Your sharing context is really helpful. You're welcome. Thank you, Marilyn. I appreciate that. Anything else? I'm handsy today. I have no idea why. I didn't know that till I got here. You're welcome, Kim, and thank you back. When you started talking about the expansive of Jupiter and Sag, I felt it in my entire being. Yeah, maybe that's what some of this is. Oh, I don't know. We shall see. Okay. All right, folks. Oh, I hadn't realized I'd cut myself off camera-wise. That should be quite interesting for people. Okay. If nobody has any additional questions or shares, thank you, Kim. Someone said that to me yesterday. A nice snortle, like I was chuckling and snorting at the same time. I do that a lot. Okay. Again, if no one has any additional shares or questions, I think we're going to call it a day. Please know that I will answer questions in the Soul Map regular page that's open to everybody, or in the Facebook Insiders page. If it doesn't occur to you right now, that's totally okay. Hang out with it. Or if you're just watching this as a replay and you actually don't have the opportunity to type your question or your aha or share into the chat, please come on over to Facebook in either of those two places, and I'll be there to receive and respond. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to let everybody know that at this point, I'm going to ask those who are not actual members of the private Facebook group, the Insiders, let you know that live is officially complete, and let you know now's the time to say goodbye. We're going to have that group, whoever of you want to remain and participate in conversation about a particular question that Emily Cohen asked. Thank you, Emily. We're going to meet about that. If you want to stay and you are a live subscriber and wish to go become a member of that Soul Map group, you can do so. You would need to do it now. So I'm just going to go grab that link. Hold on one quick sec while I pull it up. Yeah. Everything's running a little slow because I'm here and got the camera going and all that good stuff. But here's the link to go request membership. Huh. It's not letting me do that. Isn't that strange? Two. I'm trying to post it for everybody. And, huh, it's not letting me do that. Could someone grab the Facebook link for the Soul Map Insiders group and pop it in the chat? For some reason, it's just not letting me do that for everybody. I would appreciate it if someone would do that. Thank you. I'll keep my window to the Soul Map Insiders group open, so if we receive any requests to become members, we can process them right away. In the meantime, I'm going to take everybody off mute so that we can say hello, goodbye. For those of you who don't want to become members or are not members of the Soul Map Insiders group on Facebook, please say goodbye before you head on out. And for those of you who are and wish to remain for the discussion, that would be lovely. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. I don't know why it won't let me do that. So I'm going to unmute everybody. Ready? You're all unmuted. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hey.
Hi, you. Hello, hello. It's so good to hear your voices. I sit here for an hour or plus and just listen to my own voice, which is strange and odd, and I really want to hear you. Okay. So if you do want to become part of the discussion for the Soul Map Insiders group on Facebook, please, please, please honor this time. I'm going to turn off recording in just a quick sec. Please make your way out. If you're not actually a member of the Facebook Insiders group, I'm going to go by, your honor. Please carry on with your day. Thank you so much for being here. Love you, and we'll see you next time, if not in between. If you want to become a member, please go request membership. And in about 60 seconds, we'll start the conversation. Okay? Turning off recording now.